With Marvel's next upcoming Disney Plus series due to premiere next week, I've decided to take a look back at the other three series we've seen so far and determine which of them was the best. This video, of course, will contain spoilers for the Loki series, WandaVision, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So if you haven't seen those, go check out those shows first, and then come back here and watch this video. Let's get into it. These shows, of course, will be ranked from 3 to 1 because there's only been 3 shows. So starting at number 3, I have placed Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There was a lot that could have been, in my opinion, like kept out of this show to make it better. Like the whole subplot with Sam and his sister and their boat, like them trying to fix up their boat so they could sell it and all that stuff. Like, yeah, in the show it was meant to be sort of like a kind of character work for Sam to like remember his family and everything, because the whole series was about like keeping Captain America's legacy alive, but it was also your own legacy, like your own family and everything else. But I don't feel like that needed to be in the show, honestly. It should have had more action and felt more like Captain America the Winter Soldier, like the second Captain America movie. Like that movie was one of the best in the MCU because it felt more like a spy thriller rather than like a superhero movie. You know, it had a lot of action and everything else, and I feel like this show should have continued on with that trend, like within the Captain America sort of like movie universe, you know, like being action packed and everything else in its presentation. But we didn't really get that. In like most of it was just kind of talking and things like that. There were some scenes of action, like the ending and the beginning and everything else. Like the first scene we see Sam in the very first episode was him like flying through canyons and things like that, trying to take down some people in planes and helicopters and stuff. But other than that, like we didn't get a whole lot of action like I was hoping for. Also, I feel like this series should have been made into this should have been made into a movie, like the fourth Captain America movie, instead of a series where you still have the same kind of premise, you know, like Sam and Bucky fighting to keep Steve's honor alive while others are trying to, you know, like the government is trying to replace Captain America and everything else, and people are desperate for a new Captain America in the absence of Steve Rogers and things like that. Like, keep that basic premise, but it should have been in like a 2-hour movie instead of this series, you know, because then they could have only done a limited amount of stuff. And if you go back through this series and really look at all of the basically important moments, or what I at least feel were the important moments, you could essentially cram all of that into a movie and take out all the boring parts, you know, and I think this would have been a really fun movie if they had done that. I thought in this series, though, that John Walker made a pretty decent villain to counteract, you know, Sam and Bucky and what they were trying to do. And I especially enjoyed his descent into madness as he struggled to kind of do what he felt was right, while also trying to keep up the persona of Captain America. You know, like everybody expects Captain America to behave a certain way, but he was willing to step out of bounds sort of and do things that Steve Rogers would have never done, like killing people and things like that, just to do what he felt was right. And that kind of drove him mad, especially after he takes, you know, the super soldier serum and everything else to really make himself become Captain America. So he's kind of like an anti-hero, and I enjoyed that part of the series. You know, like he was a good foil for Sam and Bucky because they're struggling to keep Captain America's legacy alive, and he's like trying to tarnish that essentially. And the series did a good job with that. What I didn't really enjoy much about it was the Flag Smashers. I didn't think they really needed to be in this show, honestly. Like, you could have just had like Sam and Bucky keep going on these missions, but they keep running into John Walker, and then they have to kind of sort of fight each other or something, you know, to like, because he's been sent there by the government, and they're just kind of going there, and it's this whole struggle of like, what does being Captain America really mean? Like, I feel like having the Flag Smashers and everything, and they're just added another villain that didn't need to be in this series. John Walker was the perfect like anti-Captain America, and they should have just stuck with that, I feel like. What I do think they at least did a good job with was turning Sam into the new face of Captain America going forward, and it gave us enough to look forward to in the future. At number 2, surprisingly, I've actually placed WandaVision. I thought this show was a lot of fun, especially given the mystery that kind of shrouded the series. It did a great job of presenting us with like enough plot twists to keep us guessing as to what exactly was going on and who was behind everything, while also presenting us with a fun and unique environment that hadn't been done yet in the MCU. Like when I was going into this show, I thought it was going to be a normal sitcom, and I was like, that's something weird. There has to be, like, how are you going to turn like the MCU into a sitcom? Like how does one go about doing something like that? I never expected it to actually have a deeper meaning within the show. Like the reason it's a sitcom is because Wanda is making it a real life sitcom, like in their universe. Like she's mind controlling these people in this small town to live out a sitcom life and act like characters in a sitcom because she wants them to, because she grew up watching American sitcoms, and it had this whole deeper meaning to it, everything else. Like I didn't expect that going in, but looking back at it, I thought it was really incredible. And it also gave us a further like exploration of Wanda as a character. Like she either doesn't realize the full potential of her powers just yet, or she does, but she's like kind of maybe been containing it this whole time, and now she's letting it loose. She like created this hex where anything can happen. She made Vision come back to life and created created her kids and stuff like that just through her chaos magic and everything else. And she's starting to discover the true potential of her powers. And I thought they did a really good job with that, of like, she because she's grieving so much from losing Vision and losing her brother and everything she's gone through in the MCU so far, that's releasing her full powers. And now by the end of the series, of course, we saw that she has gone full Scarlet Witch and is now going to be probably searching the multiverse for a version of her kids that are actually living, that she can bring into this reality, which of course will bring her into conflict with Doctor Strange in the second Doctor Strange movie. As we've seen, she's going to be a part of that. She'll probably be the villain, or at least like a misunderstood hero type thing, so I think that's going to be a fun dynamic to see in the movie as well. But what the show did really good was, showing us that this is how this is what it looks like when a superhero grieves, essentially. They kind of use their powers for bad to make themselves feel good. And I thought it did a really nice job with that. And I can't wait to go back and watch the show again someday during my next MCU rewatch. Like, put all the, watch Wanda's slow progression through the MCU into her own series, and then what she does from here on out, like in the next Doctor Strange movie and so on. And now it's time for what I felt was the best show of the three series so far. I'm talking, of course, about Loki, the show about the God of Mischief, who, of course, was killed by Thanos in Infinity War and still managed to find a way to come back. I thought this was a really fun series because it gave us even more of an in-depth look at Loki, because this wasn't technically the Loki from the MCU, because that one still kind of lives on through the MCU, while this Loki is like basically free to do whatever. But he kind of works with the TVA to go after other variants and things like that. I like what they did with this show because they presented us with different versions of Loki, like what it would look like in a different universe if Loki was a woman, Loki was an old man who survived Thanos' attack, Loki was an alligator for some reason. It gave us all this new information that we've never been introduced to in the MCU before, that there could be variants of other characters we haven't seen yet, that live in different timelines. And what I also enjoyed about this the most was the reveal that basically Kang the Conqueror is the one at the end of time who has been preserving the timeline, but it's actually a variant of Kang the Conqueror that is a good person, essentially, who doesn't want the worst Kang the Conquerors to come out. I thought it did good at presenting us not only with, like, making Loki the center of the show, but also showing us what's next in the MCU, who the next big bad guy is. And it's basically because of Loki that all of this is unfolding, because now Kang the Conqueror has been released into the timeline, and there's nobody, because He Who Remains was killed. There's nobody to keep the sacred timeline in check now. Now all the Kangs can run loose, and the Avengers are going to have to deal with it. I thought it was a really fun show, and it presented us with a lot of different things. And now that we know there's going to be a multiverse and the timeline is broken and everything else, it leaves us wondering, like, what's going to happen next? Or are we going to see some new heroes being introduced because they come from other universes and timelines and things like that? You know, this might be how we get the mutants in the MCU and down the road and things like that. I thought it was a lot of fun for a show mainly just about Loki, but it gave us a new look at him as a character, and now he's sort of like basically turned into a hero by the end of the series. I really did enjoy this one, and I can't wait to see. This is the only one that's actually going to have a season 2 so far, out of the 3 of them that I've talked about. I can't wait to see what season 2 actually is, and how it's going to tie into like everything else that's happening, like Doctor Strange 2 or whatever other projects that will sort of connect to Loki. Like, I can't wait to see that as well, and maybe this could result in Loki coming back into the main MCU. Who knows? But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Was this ranking system accurate, or should something else have been in a different place? Let me know how you would rank each of these shows, and be sure to like this video and subscribe for more Marvel related content just like this, and I will see you in the next one.
Subscribe.